the least I can do is give you guys a countdown. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to your Media Mosh Podcast. I am your host, Shane Beauregard, coming at you with all your news, reviews, previews. I want to watch on your streaming services, your television, and your local theater. I hope everyone's doing well out there. I know. Last week, I told you guys I would work on my intro and try to find it. I'm having all kinds of IT issues. The truth is, I didn't try to find it last week. I was by myself. It was a great trip of solitude. I did 4 things last weekend. I ate, I put myself into a coma. I slept, I watched television, and I drank. And you could put them in any order you want because they're probably all equal parts. So that's what I ended up doing. So there you have it, folks. But this weekend, I'm back. I'm glad this is a little late in the week, but it's back-to-back weeks. I don't have a whole lot of news for you. Again, it's been a busy week, but I do have a lot of reviews for you and thoughts on different shows. So let's just hop right into it. Coming out on Netflix this weekend, or released today, you have Things Heard and Seen with Amanda Seyfried. You have State of Play with Russell Crowe and Rachel McAdams. The Whole Truth with Keanu Reeves. And this is a better lawyer movie than The Devil's Advocate. Trust me. There's no Al Pacino in this one. Then you have The Green Zone with Matt Damon. So, not Netflix originals per se, but pretty solid movies. But the movie of the week, the movie that I'll be watching is Michael B. Jordan, Amazon Prime original, Tom Clancy's Without Remorse. That comes out Friday night. I'll probably get to it Saturday because, yes, I'm going to admit to the 4 people listening, I am an NFL draft dork. Now, as a lifelong suffering Jets fan, this is like one of the highlights of the year. It really is. And especially, I'm not going to go all into it, but I do like our current GM and whatnot and coach. As always, I do have a little bit of optimism. So, yes, I will have it on Thursday night. I will watch it Friday night. And I'm not that much of a dork. It's on the background on Saturday, but I do pay attention to it. So I'll probably watch that movie on Saturday. I can't help it, folks. I love the draft. As much as we blunder it and whatnot, still, it's fun for me. So let's get right into the top 10 shows and movies on streaming on Netflix today. Number 10, the Netflix original Genie in Georgia. Number 9, this is another one of those movies that's been out for a long time that just finds its way in the top 10. That is 1992's American Me with Edward James Olmos. Number 8, the Nickelodeon Nicky, Ricky, Dicky, and Nora. Number 7, the Netflix original show The Serpent. And here we are again, Coco Melon. Like every week is in the top 10 except for one that I've noticed so far. Number 5, The Circle, which is that shitty reality show. Number 4, the Netflix original show The Baker and the Beauty. Number 3, the Netflix docuseries Life in Color with David Attenborough. Number 2, the Netflix original movie Stowaway, which I was privileged to be on the Nomcast podcast once again with Andrew Morgan, and we both reviewed this movie, so I will not be talking about it today. If you're not already listening to the Nomcast, you should. So go check them out wherever podcasts are available. It's always a great time. And trust me, this may have been his best episode. I'm just saying. So if you want to hear that review, go check out the Nomcast. If you're already not checking it out, you should be. And number 1 is Netflix original series Shadow and Bone, which I have not had a chance to get into that yet. I found out the VP's already started that without me, and I gave her a little shit until she threw it back in my face. I probably literally watched 100 shows without her. So, yeah, I'll let her have that one. Not going to get into the box office. The only thing I will say is Mortal Kombat finished number 1 with like $23.3 million. I'll get much more into that movie here in a little bit. But it's the 4th highest grossing video game movie of all time so far. So we'll get into that in just a little bit. Now let's get into what I watched this week. Now, spoiler free, I'm not going to go really in depth into the episode because I'll talk about it more next week. But The Falcon and Winter Soldier had its 6th episode season finale. And it was awesome. I love it. I gush about the show. It makes my pants tight. I can't say enough about it. You got the Falcon in his new suit, which I really liked. You had your final confrontation with the Flag Smashers. The only thing I will say is Bat-Rack, who's played by George St. Pierre, is always whooping Sam's ass. It doesn't matter. Like, he just gets the better of him. I find that pretty funny myself. You get John Walker finally as a U.S. agent with his garbage lid as a shield. He kind of redeems himself just a little bit towards the tail end of this episode, but I really did like when he jumped in because I kind of forgot about him until he jumped into the fray in the final part of the episode. So yeah, very action-packed at the end. I love the speech that Sam gives about being Captain America. It ties into the whole Isaiah storyline, which I really liked. And then what the fuck, Sharon Carter? What the fuck? And I guess some people saw that coming because I did, in episode 5, kind of theorize that was going to be the case. But I do like where the show kind of, I don't know where it's going to jump us forward to, but I definitely like the direction everything's heading into. So I don't know what the Marvel MCU TV slate has tied in with the movies, so I can't, theorize on that. So I won't get into that. But fantastic series, like I said last week, where I made the bold statement where Daredevil is the best Marvel property on television. Period. End of discussion. This one is close. It's close. I'll have to see like another season or two if they at least have it, because Daredevil was 3 seasons, and obviously this is the initial season. Plus Daredevil was a 13-episode run where this was a 6. So you can concentrate and pack a whole lot into 6 episodes, where sometimes with those Netflix shows, as you know, with The Punisher and Jessica Jones, you kind of have to have those filler episodes, and some of the episodes kind of drag in the middle of the season. That being said, is Daredevil, but this is really, really close. Now, again, a weekend by myself with a whole lot of eating and drinking going on. I finally got caught up with Mythic Quest, A Raven's Banquet. I ended up watching like 4 episodes and kind of forgot about it. It's created by Charlie Day, Robert McElhaney. You know them from by Charlie and Mac from It's Always Sunny. And then you have Megan Gantz, who also created this as well. She's worked with or in Community, Modern Family, and It's Always Sunny, so she has a really good comedic background. I love this show. So I'll read you just the synopsis of the show. The owner of a successful video game design company and his troubled staff struggle to keep their hit game, Mythic Quest, on top. And that is it, folks. This has Silicon Valley vibes, but I like it more than Silicon Valley. I do. You have Mac playing Ian. I'll go over the cast real quick. You have Charlotte Nichols. I'm not familiar with her work. She plays Poppy, the head programmer. You have Ricky Cricket, who's like the manager and overseer of the office. One of my favorite characters is F. Murray Abraham, who doesn't like him, playing C.W. Longbottom, even better name, as like a 1970s and 80s science fiction writer. And he writes all the cutscenes and background stories for all the characters in this game. Now, as the description of the game, you can tell it's more like a Dungeons and Dragons type of game. But they're always making add-ons and kind of like Fortnite, where people could buy certain things, and there's expansion packs and all that kind of stuff. So you have that dynamic. The cast works really well together. Mac playing Ian is that very eccentric, over-the-top, kind of selfish, quirky, fucking millionaire owner. But, he flashes. Deep down, he has heart, and that's what I like about him. Even though he could come off as just totally clueless and unaware, he comes back and redeems himself because he actually does care about his company and, more importantly, his staff. So I love the dynamic between him and Poppy, who is the head programmer. So she's the one that fixes and oversees all the people who code in the different aspects of this game. They play well with each other. And again, F. Murray Abraham is hilarious because he's always drunk. And Ricky the Cricket's good. So it's a great cast. Lots of heart. 10 episodes. I love one episode in particular because after the 4th episode, when I jumped into episode 5, it started out with Jake Johnson and Kristen Milata, and the whole show was them. And I'm like, am I watching the right show? Is this still Mythic Quest? So it does loosely tie in to the overall season arc, but it was a nice, sweet, offbeat, kind of gives you a break with Mythic Quest with the original cast. So I loved that episode. That's episode 5. Then episode picks off until we get to the finale. Now, season 2 is being released May 7th. So if you haven't seen it, came out last year. It's 10 episodes, but they did drop a special episode last month, which I watched. So there's technically 11 episodes. And as the season got on, the last 2 episodes dealt with the quarantine, which I thought was hilarious. So the writing is spot on. The cast has great chemistry. It has heart. Now, I gleamed about Ted Lasso. To me, this show is on par with Ted Lasso for me. Now, Apple Plus does not have tons of original content, but the shows they do have on there are strong. I will say that. You cannot go wrong with this show. So if you're looking for a little sitcom to watch for 20, 25 minutes per episode, Go watch Mythic Quest. I give this show, I'm going to rate this show. I don't know if I've ever rated like sitcoms like this before, but I'm going to give season 1 of Mythic Quest a 4.5 out of 5. Outstanding. So I was stuck on Apple TV for this next movie as well. Came out this year. It's an Apple TV original directed by the Russo brothers, starring Tom Holland, and that is the 2021 Cherry. In this movie, I'll read the description again. Cherry drifts from college dropout to army medic in Iraq, anchored only by his true love, Emily, but after returning from the war with PTSD, his life spirals into drugs and crime as he struggles to find his place in the world. Now, apparently this movie is based on a semi-autobiographical, oh man, I nailed it, book by Nico Walker. So apparently this is his story. It's sitting at 37% critic score on Rotten Tomato with a 70% audience score. Now, where do I start with this movie? Because this is a hard one to kind of dissect. It's a hard watch, I will say that. This movie is broken down into a prelogue, then you have 6 chapters, and you have an epilogue. So the first half is Cherry going to college, meeting Emily. They end up dating and falling in love. He doesn't really know what to do, so he drops out of college. She doesn't explain anything, just breaks up with him for some reason. I did not like the character Emily. Let me just jump back real quick. The rest of the cast is Sierra Bravo plays Emily. You know her from the Amazon Prime show Wayne. Then you have Jack Reiner is the only other character worth noting. He plays a character called Pills and Coke, and he was in Midsommar that came out last year. So Emily breaks up with him for no reason. He's all distraught, so he decides to join the military. So the middle of the movie is his boot camp training and then his tour in Iraq, which that was the best part of the movie. That is the best part. The basic training scenes were shot. This is where the Russo brothers shine. They're technically sound. The shots they decided to use were spot on. I think, I don't know for sure, but it really reminded me of Full Metal Jacket, the way he kind of mirrored some of Kubrick's shots, and also Forrest Gump. And it's not as good as a Full Metal Jacket basic training scene, but it is really solid. And it is really true to form, especially in this day and age. Because this movie, or this time frame we're talking about, is 2001 to 2020, I believe. So it's current, but it does give you an inside look at what it is to be a soldier in basic training. And what I did like is on his name tag, it didn't have his last name. It just had soldier. So I took that as he's just another person, like another wheel in the cog. And that's what you are when you're in the military. I always joke about it, but you're just your social security number. You're a number. So not really a person when you're in basic training. And I thought that was a good nod on how to represent that. That's, to me, the meat of this movie. That's the one I enjoyed the most. Then he becomes a combat medic. Now, I will say, usually when you pick your job in the military, you don't stay at the same post you did your basic training. So I was like, okay, I can overlook that. That's just me being in the military. I caught another mistake, which I'll get to in a second. Then you get his time in Iraq, and he becomes bonded with some brothers, and of course he's seen some horrific things. So he comes home just all kinds of torn up and messed up. When he returns home, you get the scene where he goes to his high school with his unit, and they're presenting awards. Now, you probably don't give a shit about this mistake, but it's a big one in my book. When he is attacked in Iraq, he's an E3, which is a private first class. But during the ceremony, he's wearing E2 rank, which is just a step above a basic private. But when he's called in to accept his reward, they address him as an E4. So I'm like, there's inconsistencies with that. I don't know how that slipped through the editing process. But anyway, that's just me. Sorry, that's just me. So he's reunited with Emily because she's waiting for him to come home. That's where he slips into his PTSD, and he ends up taking drugs and becomes a full-blown, just flat-out druggie. And that's where he gets hooked up with Pills and Coke, who is his provider. And this is what I didn't like about the Emily character. For no reason, really, no reason other than she says, I'm tired of you being fucked up all the time, she decides to take drugs. So it becomes that dynamic where they're always getting messed up and looking for their next high. So he decides to rob banks. Now, this movie takes place in Cleveland, Ohio. Just keep that in mind. And he ends up, this is the part that was unbelievable to me. The first time he robbed a bank, he didn't even have a mask, glasses, anything. He just helped with a note saying, I have a gun, I'm robbing your bank, give me your money. And then other than that, he wore like these funky glasses, or sometimes he put a hat over his head. Like it didn't make sense. He robbed like 5 or 6 banks. Like, how do you not catch this guy? And the last half, or the druggy part, is really depressing. And other movies do it better, like Transpotting, Requiem for a Dream. Yeah, really uplifting movies, if you catch my drift. So, yeah, this was a hard watch. It was a hard watch. There is some humor in it. But I will say the plus is Tom Holland. Not your typical neighborhood Spider-Man role. He knocks this shit out of the park. Like, he was great in this movie. But I didn't like all the the Russo brothers' other messages in this movie, which really just bashing capitalism. And he had some other themes in here I didn't really give a shit about. And they just hit you over the head. At times, this movie was too over-stylized for me. Like, when they're robbing banks, I'll give you a couple names of these banks that they used in this movie. And this is actually, you would see it, and any person watching can pick it up. One of the banks' name was Shitty Bank. Then you had Capitalist One Bank. And then you had Bank Fucks America. So I'm like, okay, I get it. I get it, man. I get it. That part, I didn't like. The other part that was just criminal was the runtime on this thing. It was 2 hours and 20 minutes, and hand to God or Buddha or whoever you pray to, it felt like I just watched the Lord of the Rings trilogy when I got there. It felt like I was on the couch for 9 hours. They could have sliced a good 40 minutes off this movie, and I think it would have worked better. I won't spoil the ending for you, if in case you guys did want to watch this, but I would proceed with caution on this. Again, a little over-stylized, solid performances, except for the character Emily. And I don't blame that on Sierra Bravo. I just blame it on the script she was given. Her character was not a strong character. So I'm going to give this movie a 2 out of 5 for Cherry. Let's get into the other piece of shit I watched this weekend, and that is Mortal Kombat. And I'm sorry to laugh, but this some people actually really like this movie. Before I dive into the review, they already have announced 2 sequels to this movie, so it's going to be a trilogy. And there's already rumors about who's going to play Johnny Cage. Right now they want The Miz, who, if you don't know, is a actual WWE wrestler who's been on TV at times. And then you have James Marsden, and they want Ryan Reynolds. First of all, and this is the fans, I think. Yeah, I know it's the fans. First of all, Ryan Reynolds is not doing Mortal Kombat 2. Sorry to break it to you. And honestly, James Marsden, who I talked about a couple episodes ago, stay away from this. Stay away from more. No. The Miz, he's over the top. He's cheesy. Being a wrestler, he knows how to, be that cheesy persona and character and have fun with it. I think he'd be the perfect Johnny Cage once he enters the second movie. Now, this movie's sitting at 55% critic score with an 87% audience score. This movie's directed by Simon Quaid, which is his actual directorial debut. He did a short back in 2014. So this is his first movie. Now, I'll go over the cast real quick. You have Louis Tan playing Cole Young. He had a brief stint as Shatterstar in Deadpool 2. Jessica McName as Sonya Blade, who is in The Meg. Mehcad Brooks plays Jax, who is Jimmy Olsen in the Supergirl show. Joe Taslim, who's the fucking man, playing Sub-Zero. You know him from The Raid and The Night Comes For Us. And then you have Haruki Sanada playing Scorpion, who is in The Last Samurai and The Wolverine. And Tanato Basano, I know I butchered that name, playing Lord Raiden, and he played Hogun in the Thor series. So, solid cast. Again, spoiler-free. So, the only thing I'm going to talk about is what they changed. So, you have the whole outer world with Shang Tsung trying to enter Earth and conquer that world. And he has his own set of fighters with him. I didn't even bother to write them down because they were kind of pointless, except for Sub-Zero. And he's trying to break all the rules, and Lord Raiden is doing everything he can to keep him in check. So the opening scene takes place at some village where Scorpion, before he becomes Scorpion, he has his wife and kid. He's tending his land. Sub-Zero and his minions come in and murder his wife and kid. But before that, his wife was able to hide his infant son under these floorboards. Scorpion and Sub-Zero get it on. Sub-Zero vanquishes Scorpion. Scorpion gets sent down to hell. And they don't find the kid. Lord Raiden shows up after the fact, finds the kid under the floorboards, and that's where we kind of flash into the present day, where we get introduced to Cole Young as a washed-up MMA star. He was big at one time, but now is taking $100 fights on the weekend. He has a young daughter and a wife he's trying to take care of. He's always known he's had this mark. Well, Shang Tsung then sends Sub-Zero down to Earth to take out all the fighters that have these marks. So that's where we get introduced to Jax and Sonya Blade. The one thing they did keep consistent in this movie, like they did in the original, is Sonya Blade's connection to Kano. She was kind of like her target to take out. And when they enter she enters the scene. She already has Kano subdued in her, I guess, compound, because she's been tracking all these different people with the marks and trying to piece out together what it means. I won't go too far else into it. I didn't like the opening scene. It just, they didn't explain it any further. Like, they showed Scorpion and Sub-Zero before they became who they became, but then they just became them. So, like, there's no explanation there. It wasn't a tournament style like the first movie. I didn't like the new character, Cole Young. Shocker, this isn't a spoiler, but he's a descendant of Scorpion, who, by the way, has been sitting in hell all these years trying to get these fighters together. That's unexplained. The one thing this movie had going for it, and I will say this movie had great fight scenes in it. The choreography was fantastic, especially between Scorpion and Sub-Zero. In fact, quick note, the director had to tell Joe Taslim to slow down because he was too fast for the shots they were trying to get in. So any scene Sub-Zero was in was just great. It was great. But other than that, it fell flat for me. Other than the fight scenes, the new character didn't work for me. Now, they do tease Johnny Cage. Like I said at the beginning of this, before I went into this review, they do kind of tease him in the movie poster at the end of this movie. But I do appreciate them trying to do some different things. And this movie definitely centered around Sub-Zero and Scorpion. They decided to make them two of the stars of this movie, or the main theme about this movie. So the whole Outer World kind of thing tournament takes kind of a back seat. Now, you do get your one-on-one fights with Shang Tsung's team and Lord Raiden's team with Liu Kang. Liu Kang training all, like, Jax, Sonya Blade, and Cole Young. Because what they have to do is they have to unlock whatever powers that they have. The only person in here that doesn't have a mark is Sonya Blade. They did make a point, and now I know I'm getting all over the place with this review, that if you fight someone with that mark and you kill them, now you're marked with them. So that mark transfers from them to you. But that never happened with Sonya Blade. So other than the fight scenes, which I know seemed like I shit all over this movie, and I kind of did, it wasn't the worst thing I've seen. It was entertaining. I will say that. It was entertaining, but everything else about this movie just didn't work for me. But if you go into it just looking to grab your popcorn and be entertained, then you will. I will be on record for saying this is not better than the 1995 version. It is not. Obviously, the special effects are. Some of the fight scenes are, because we are in 2021. But screenplay-wise, story-wise, they stuck to the video game more, and I thought carried it more successful than this new one. So yeah, and that original one is sitting at 44% critic score with a 57% audience score. But I'm going to stick to my guns. I like the 1995 version better. My favorite character in this movie was Sub-Zero. I love Joe Taslim. If you have not seen The Night Comes For Us on Netflix, it is one of the most batshit crazy movies you'll ever see. So I'll just leave that on that side note. So in the end, yeah, I give this one a 2 out of 5 for Mortal Kombat. And again, based on its success already, we're going to get 2 more of these movies, people. So I don't know where they're going to go, because apparently Sub-Zero is going to be in both of them, and I'll just leave that at that. So anyway, that's it, folks. That's all I have for you. I hope you enjoyed. Next week I'll have my Michael B. Jordan Without Remorse review, and I'm going to start watching the Nevers on HBO, and whatever else I get into. I did save some news and some rants for next week. I was going to go on a massive rant this week that's not really movie related, but it is entertainment news related, but I will leave that in my back pocket. So until then, I just want to thank Andrew Morgan again for having me on his show last week reviewing Stowaway. So if you have not seen Stowaway on Netflix, go check it out and then go listen to his podcast. And then go check me on the Apple Podcast Store. Download me, share me with your friend. He will thank you. Trust me. And then go check me out in the Twitterverse at Shane Meatymosh. And then circle the wagons and check out Mr. Arg myself, Chris Frodell, on the Instagram, Facebooks, and Twitterverse. He just dropped a couple of reviews that were really good. In fact, I almost passed out. And thought someone wrote this review for him. He has a very good New Mutants review up there which is the total opposite of what I said about it last week. So go check that out. 3 different platforms for 3 different types of content. Until then, everyone have a great week. Get caught up. Get caught up in the mosh. Interesting fact, the director, I found out afterward that he had to slow a lot of Joe Taslim's movements down because he's actually too fast for the camera. So really good fight scenes across the board. Really, that's the highlight of this goddamn movie. Storyline makes no sense. Screenplay was all over the place. Bottom line, it's a bad movie. I'm begrudgingly saying this, but it was in parts entertaining, though I did enjoy the first one better. Now, they've already announced they're doing a fucking trilogy of this movie, and apparently Johnny Cage is going to be in the second one. There's a fan debate, or fans want 1 of 3 people to play this role. The Miz, if you don't know The Miz, he's a WWE superstar. James Marsden, who's my guy, and Ryan Reynolds. First of all, you're not getting Ryan Reynolds for Mortal Kombat 2, so just watch that out. Stick with The Miz. He's got like the Johnny Cage swag. James Marsden can do it, but The Miz is a wrestler. He has that entertaining way about him. He knows how to like just stick with The Miz. He's an entertaining guy. He's a wrestler. He knows to put on a show. He'll ham it up, which is what Johnny Cage should do. So add The Miz, I'm fine. But tread lightly with this show. Again, it's entertaining. There are worse ways to spend I watched this in the morning. There are worse ways to spend the Saturday morning. But to me, it was a mess. Because of the fight choreography And it wasn't like directed terribly, so it wasn't like a poorly directed movie. And before I give it the final grade, I know I'm all over the place here, folks. I did have a nice note. I did lay out a lot. I did lay out a lot of nice notes, but for some reason my mind's scattershot. I'm going all over the place now. The other thing about this movie is they didn't really explore any other characters' powers. I mean, some of them got revealed to them, and you saw them kind of play around with them, but they never, especially on the villain side, you never really got to see a lot of unlocking of the powers and them really utilizing them in this movie. So to me, that whole thing was wasted. Man, okay. So and I guess the other good thing is they actually got an Asian character or an Asian actor to play Raiden, which I can't fault them for casting the Highlander for 1990. It was 1995, guys. It was 1995. So you can get away with that stuff. But it was refreshing to see Tadano, or it was nice to see Hogan play Lord Raiden. I didn't mind his character because he pretty much had the same role as he did in the first one. No problem there. Lots of problems across the board, though. So again, I give this one a 2 out of 5 for Mortal Kombat. And listen, folks, we're getting 2 more of these down the pipe. So that's it. Next week I will have some more news. I did have a rant I was going to go on, and I saved that. I'm going to save it, even though it's not really movie related. It's more entertainment related, but it bothers me, so I'm just going to let you people hear it next week. And I forgot to bring up the whole... Nope. And my movie next week is going to be the Michael G... And my main review for next week is going to be the Michael B. Jordan movie, Without Remorse. And we'll see what else I get into. There's a lot going on right now. But I'm back-to-back weeks, baby. This hasn't happened in a while. So, sorry for the choppy reviews there. Again, I did have everything lined up really nice, but Mortal Kombat kind of pissed me off as I was talking about it, so it just made me kind of scattershot. So, that's it, folks. That's all I have for you. Go check me on the Apple Podcast Store. Download me, share me, let me into your friend's life. Go to my Twitter handle, @ShaneMediaMosh, and when you're done with that, circle the wagons and check out Instagram, Facebook, and the Twitterverse for Mr. Arguing Myself, Chris Riddell. 3 different platforms for 3 different types of content. Until then, get caught up in the mosh.